Welcome back to Dunya today. I'm joined here by Ms. Peterson, U.S. Ambassador to Pakistan. You recently made the statement that we have given $3 billion to the Pakistan People's Party government in the last 1 year, and we just saw that a spokesperson from Ministry of Finance actually retorted. They said only $970 million, and then Ambassador Peterson need to come up with the distribution of the $3 billion. And what is...
Well, I think that I looked at the transcript of what the finance minister said, and I think we're talking a bit about apples and oranges here. And he was talking about the pledging and other thing, but we just prepared a fact sheet, so I'm going to send it over to the Ministry of Finance and try and resolve some of this issue, and we'll release it to the press. For instance, the United States spends $330 million on Pakistan's IDP crisis. We were far and away the largest donor. Most of it went through the UN system, and most of it went through NGOs, so it's not visible to the people in Pakistan. We just got $400 million for Pakistan's military in our last budget, and we've ordered $385 million equipment. So a lot of this stuff is not in the public domain. A lot of these expenditures are not in the public domain, but believe me, they add up.
Let's almost like coming to the end of a discussion. Throughout these points, when we look toward the issue of the embassy expansion, the FPAC term, the Blackwater, the inter-risk, the land acquisition in Khushab or in Sohala, which you said is not taking place, the distribution of the Gary Luger, the legislation, the bill, the money, and the visas. I think that you can explain the situation, yet at the same time, the U.S. embassy appears totally unable to explain its position most of the time. That's why you get a bad press and bad media in Pakistan. Why do you think it's happening? Are you not proactive?
I don't know. Maybe we're not proactive enough. But for instance, on the embassy expansion, we called in the press and we briefed them. We had the building plans. We displayed to them the building plans. We walked them about the compound. We told them about our expansion plans. We briefed them on what Marine Guards do. And the stories, in fairness, seemed to die down for a few days. But then it flared right back up. So I don't know the answer to that. Maybe we're not sufficiently proactive.
Could it be this, that you handle the issues when they become rumors? You could have actually gone public with the expansion of the U.S. embassy to begin with.
We could have, but again, I think this is where a misunderstanding, as we were talking about AFPAC, that never would have occurred to us. For us, it was an utterly routine activity that we do all over the world. We're trying to buy land, absolutely. We're trying to buy 16 acres, plots on either side of our existing compound. For us, it was just a routine transaction with CDA. And frankly, we were shocked when it flared up as it did.
What do you think can actually be done to improve this communication with the Pakistani media?
Well, I do think we need to be more proactive. And again, to repeat, I think some of the Pakistani media is utterly sensationalist and malicious at times in promoting anti-Americanism. So in many respects, it's a two-way street. We can be certainly more proactive and do a better job of explaining our policies and what we're going to do. And they can be a little less inclined to just make up articles from whole cloth, like the article I described to you.
But, you know, I mean, just a thought that comes to my mind when you say this thing, the Pakistani media is sensationalist. Many people would point out that even the U.S. media, you know, most of the stories that appear in U.S. media, like in New York Times, Washington Post, or television channels, are utterly negative of Pakistan.
Yes, and Hossein Haqqani makes this point a lot when he says the U.S. media, the U.S. has a very poor image in Pakistan. Well, Pakistan has a very poor image in the United States too, and that too is, I think Ambassador Haqqani has been very aggressive. He's been out there with the media. He's been particularly active in our Congress in explaining Pakistan's point of view. So again, it's a two-way street.
Do you think the U.S. embassy can play a role, or the U.S. government can play? I know that the media is free in U.S., but U.S. government, the State Department, the embassies, the missions can play a role in developing a better communication between the U.S. print and electronic media and the Pakistani situation?
Yes, and I think actually in the embassy we do a better job of this than we do reaching out to the Pakistani media. There's not a week that goes by that we don't have several backgrounders with American or British media in our embassy. And I think there's some excellent reporters here from the international media, and I think by and large, as the situation here in Pakistan has improved, and I think again has improved quite dramatically in the past few months, they've done a better job of articulating this to their viewers and readers in the U.S. It's not universally negative. It's gotten better, I think.
Ambassador Peterson, one thing that comes to the mind regarding this media interaction is when Ambassador Richard Holbrooke came to the Pakistan in first 2 visits, he totally avoided the Pakistani media. He had no time for Pakistani media. Yet we saw that he went to India and he had a press briefing, very open press briefing with the Indian media. Why the difference?
I don't know why the difference, but my guess is it was just a scheduling issue. Because I remember those first 2 visits were one short and packed with appointments. So I suspect he wanted to get his feet on the ground a bit in Pakistan and meet the leadership. I think he was more familiar with India. He had been head of the Asia Society. That would be my guess, but I really don't know. But certainly on his subsequent visit, he's had an enormous amount of interaction with the Pakistani media.
Only one briefing?
No, he's had more than one briefing. And he's brought media from the United States, some very prominent journalists from the United States, as well as some Pakistani media who were on the plane with him. So I think he's made a real point to reach out to the Pakistani media in his more recent trips.
Okay, let me ask the last question. How do you assess 1 year of the new Democratic Pakistan People's Party government in office?
Well, I think any transition is difficult. Transitions are difficult in the United States, and any government that's been out of power for many years has some difficulty getting its feet on the ground. But I think they're beginning to do so, and I think the Malakand and the SWAT issue is a very good example of how this government has begun to take hold, because I certainly cannot recall a time in which 2 million people have been moved in and out with no broad humanitarian emergency, that basically the Taliban has been rooted from SWAT, that normal life has resumed with basically very few problems. I think that's an enormous credit to both the federal and the provincial government.
So these are the achievements. What are the failures of this government?
Well, there are lots of achievements of this government. Let me mention another one, which was the economy. When this government took over, the government was on the verge of default. This was greatly aggravated by high oil prices. But they've gone to the IMF, the economy stabilized, Pakistan's bond ratings have gone up. Pakistan has positive growth. Do you realize how unusual that is in this sort of international environment? So I think there's been actually enormous progress on the economic side with this government too, and they deserve credit for that.
What are the areas in which you think they have not been able to move very quickly?
Well, I think, again, the poverty alleviation was an issue, a very serious issue at first, and I think the Benazir Income Fund has been a help in that. Some ministries, this is again no secret, it's just the same in my country, are more efficient than others. I think Pakistanis were scared. Americans were scared too by this movement of the Taliban into Swat and Bunir, and I think that was a shock to many Pakistanis, particularly urbanized Pakistanis. So, but I think a lot of this is, and again, the statistics on violence are way down in recent months.
Are you optimistic?
Oh, I'm always optimistic. Again, yes, of course I'm optimistic. You have a democratic government. You have a recovering economy. You have enormous potential here, enormous potential in Pakistan with the demographic dividend, your young population, we had an investment mission in the U.S. I took some investors to the U.S. recently, Pakistani investors, and Pakistani businessmen and businesswomen. No one is a better spokesperson for Pakistan than these Pakistanis who are investing their own money in Pakistan. And Americans were surprised at the opportunities here. So that's another area where we need to do a better job, is to go out to the business community, tell them what a promising investment environment they'll find in Pakistan, and try and get them to invest their money here.
For that you have to give them the visas.
But these are, yes, Americans coming here will get visas. Yes, of course, it's a two-way street, but there are a huge number of business opportunities for Americans in Pakistan that they need to take advantage of. I mean, that's another one of my jobs, is to promote commercial activity between Pakistan and the United States. Again, I think the country has just enormous potential. I'm actually really very optimistic. I think with the enhanced international aid flows, with the democratic government taking hold, with the violence down, I think people are going to look at Pakistan and say, now is the time to get in on the action here, businessmen. And I think you may see a very sharp inflow in investment in the near future.
Ms. Peterson, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Prasad. Thank you.